Welcome back to Teach English Now. As we get into more detail about lesson design, one thing should become very apparent. Students are not empty vessels. In other words, there is a sort of layman's theory that would suggest that students are cups without water. A teacher is a sort of pitcher full of water, and that all a teacher needs to do is nothing more than fill that empty glass until it is full. Makes sense, it just happens to be terribly wrong. Sometimes I hate metaphors. The truth is that the human brain is not an empty cup or a blank slate or anything that might suggest that it isn't already packed full of information. Even for young learners of language, there are countless ways in which you can use the information they already have to great advantage. Thus, language learning is not something wherein a teacher simply has to teach new information while students obediently learn it. The truth is that the human brain has an intricate number of neural pathways that are all interrelated and connected in amazing ways, and that a teacher who can engage that brain can use it to great advantage. So, how do you engage all your learners right from the beginning? And how do you use their current knowledge to your own advantage? Now that can be a trick, but at least you are thinking about it. You see, one of the biggest problems in education is that teachers don't recognize the importance of engaging students, in firing up those neural receptors and introducing them to a theme that they will connect to already formed neural pathways. In some sense, a lot of teachers just start a class without paying attention to connecting the material to what is previously understood or known. Jerome Bruner, another instructional designer and cognitive learning theorist, suggests that when curriculum is built in a spiral, with many iterations, from simple to complex, learners can get better and better at what they do. Think of it this way. First, you learn to ride a tricycle, then a bike, then a car, and then for some of you, perhaps a motorcycle, a helicopter, or even a plane. Now, each of these are different from the other. But wouldn't you say that there is a sense of relying on past skills in order to gain new skills? That there are similarities even between your very first tricycle and a jet fighter plane? In other words, when you write your lesson plans, keep in mind that knowledge and skills in language is not a one-and-done proposition. Students who learn how to give a 5-minute speech are not simply done and have no need to speak ever again. Students who learn vocabulary in your class don't simply keep that vocabulary in their heads because they got an A on that last test. In fact, it is quite the opposite. Students are very likely to forget information that isn't constantly brought up again and again. I guess this is all just a fancy way of stating an obvious point. When you write your lesson plans, connect them to each other. Your lessons aren't little chunks of knowledge on an island. They should be interconnected and reliant upon each other, and they should help students practice again and again previous material already covered. Now, why am I bringing this up in a lesson about warm-ups? So glad you asked. You see, a warm-up is a perfect opportunity to accomplish two things. First, it is an opportunity to bring up and introduce new ideas. But second, it is also an opportunity to stir up past ideas, past thoughts, and past learning experiences among students, and connect them to the new information. In other words, one of the most important things you can do as a teacher is to engage students' background knowledge by having those synapses fire and providing connections between new information and the neural pathways they have already formed. Teachers aren't a pitcher of water, but rather they are a bridge. Students have already traveled some distance, and you as a teacher can help them to go a bit farther. In the next video, we will discuss some of the elements of a proper warm-up and have our 3 teachers give examples of ways in which a warm-up might be performed in the TESOL context. See you there.